What's up guys, my name is Nafi, and if you want to learn how to make realistic racing games inside of Unreal Engine 5, this course is perfect for you because in this course we're going to be learning how to make this exact racing game from scratch inside of Unreal Engine 5. Now we're going to be starting off with rigging the model inside of Blender 3D. After that we're going to be making it drivable inside of Unreal Engine 5. We're going to add all the materials, do all the texturing, we're going to tweak the driving physics and make it feel very satisfying to drive the car. After that we're also going to be adding AI opponent cars. We're going to be setting up all the logic for cars to drive themselves and really make the game competitive and very engaging for the player. We're also going to be covering side features like adding cutscenes, adding heads-up displays, adding start countdowns, adding finish widgets and all that stuff. We're going to be covering a whole lot in this course. So if you are an Unreal Engine 5 beginner who wants to take their skills to the next level and wants to actually start working on bigger projects, then this is your place to start. Now we're going to be doing all the coding inside of Unreal Engine 5 blueprints. So if you don't know much about coding, that's perfectly fine. Everything we cover is going to be pretty beginner friendly and I'm going to be guiding you along every single step. So yeah, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this course. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get started with making this game. So first of all, we're going to be opening the the Epic Games launcher. I have it open right there. And what you can do is you can basically just go to Fab right here. Because we're going to be getting a project inside which we're going to be building our game. So if you don't know about the city sample project, we're going to be using that. It's a city that comes with a lot of different things and it's completely free. It's made by Epic Games themselves. So we're just going to be using that environment. So to go to Fab and click Start Exploring. So once you do that, it's going to open up the browser. And here you can search for city sample. That's all you need to write, city sample, and it's going to pop up right there. So this is the project that we're going to be using. If you've seen the Matrix demo made by Epic Games, this is exactly that project and we're going to be using this. It's a pretty realistic city with a lot of different details, with a lot of different elements that we're going to be using in our game, which is going to make it look absolutely amazing. So just download this. It is, I think, about 100 gigabytes, so make sure you have enough space. Alternatively, if you don't want to use this, if you let's say don't have enough space or if your computer is not strong enough, you can use some other city environments as well, or you can create your own city as well. Those are definitely options that you have. However, I'm not going to be going super into level design, world building process inside of this course. I do have other courses for that, so you can check those out. But let me show you some other environment packs that you can get. So just search for city. There's a lot of different free options, a lot of different paid options. So if you want to see the free ones, just make sure to click free. And you can see that we have this one. And I saw another one the other day. I think it was, yeah, LA Night City. This one, you can see that there's a lot of different options. But the only problem with these is that I'm not really sure if they're really high quality or not, because I personally haven't tried them out. I have seen them, but I haven't really, tried them out myself personally. So yeah, I think I was talking about this one, I think. City Park Environment Collection. But yeah, this doesn't have any roads or anything like that. So I don't think this would be as useful in this project. But yeah. You have a lot of different options. You can choose whichever one you want. However, the best option is always going to be city sample. It's probably the most realistic and the most high quality option out there, and it's free as well. So just download this. I think it's going to give you an option to download or add to library, because I think I've already downloaded it. That's why it's giving me that option. But just click that, click view and launcher, and then you can open Epic Games Launcher. And then if you go down to your Fab library, if you refresh it, you should see city sample right there. And you can see the cache size is 106 gigabytes. You're going to have to download that, obviously. And then you can click create project. Now, one thing that I want to mention here is that the latest version that this project supports is Unreal Engine 5.5. I know Unreal Engine 5.6 recently got released. However, we're not going to be using any of the new features introduced in that version. So we're just going to stick with 5.5, and the process should be exactly the same in 5.6 or any future versions as well. If there are any major changes, I'll try my best to make an updated version of this course. Okay, so you can just call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it Racing Game Course. Cool. And the folder, I think that should be fine. Click Create. And now it is going to take a bit, even though I have it installed. It's going to, I think, check the installation, verify it, and all that stuff. So yeah, just let it do that. This, by the way, automotive materials is also another feature pack or another asset pack that we're going to be using. It's for adding materials to our cars. So we're just going to be using that in just a bit. But in case you're downloading the city sample, might as well just download automotive materials alongside it as well. You can just go to Fab again, search for automotive materials, and then just select this one right there. This again is also made by Epic Games, and it has a lot of different high quality car materials, interior, exterior materials, all of that stuff. It has a lot of different materials. So just download this as well, same exact process. And with this one, you're not going to be creating a new project with this. You're just going to be adding to project. So don't do that yet, because we are creating our project with the city sample first, and then we're going to be adding it to that project afterwards. So just try to download it before and don't add it yet. So it's verifying it. And yeah, so I'm just going to let it do its thing, and I'll see you guys when it's done. All right, now while the project is being set up in the background, what we can do is we can go ahead and start looking for a car. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to this website called Sketchfab, and I'm just going to search for Lamborghini. You can obviously select any model that you want or any car that you want, but I just decided to go with a Lamborghini Huracan. I think I spelled Lamborghini wrong. No, it was just not capitalized. Okay, Lamborghini Huracan, and you can see that we have a lot of different options here that you can choose. I think you can pretty much choose any of them, and the process should be very similar, if not the same, for all of these. I think the one that I chose was this one. Yeah, I think the Huracan Eagle by STC Performance. STC Performance is, I think it's a group of people or it's one person, I'm not sure, but they make really good models, like car models, and they modify things and like they do an amazing job. So yeah, check out their models for sure. They're really good. And they're free as well. So that's, you don't lose anything. But yeah, you can see that this model is pretty detailed. It's very high quality, and it's also it's also like customized. So that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and download this. So I'm just going to click download 3D model. And also, by the way, if you're downloading any model from Sketchfab, just make sure that the triangles are a reasonable number. If they are about like 500,000, 600,000, that's a good number. Actually, this is on the higher end. If it's like 300,000 triangles, that's even better. However, some models would have like upwards of 1 million, 2 million. That's definitely not good. That's gonna reduce your performance quite a bit. So just make sure to look at the triangles number before downloading a model. So I'm just going to click download 3D model, and I'm just going to be converting it into GITF. You can download the Blender file as well. However, I noticed that there are some problems with the Blender file. Sometimes the settings of Blender are different. Sometimes some things are just not working correctly. So I think the safest option always, for me at least, has been to download the GITF file. So I'm just going to click download and just wait for it to download. Alright guys, this is Nafif from the future, and I'm going to be interrupting this course a bit just to let you guys know that we're going to be doing this rigging process inside of Blender 3D. But I do understand that this course is primarily aimed towards Unreal Engine 5, so if you want to skip this Blender part, it's totally understandable. I am going to be provided the rigged version of this model right below this video. So in Udemy, if you go down, you can see some assets attached to this video, so you can just go and get this model there. Obviously, the full credits for this model go to STC Performance. I only rigged this model. They've worked really, really hard to create this model. But yeah, with that being said, I would definitely recommend you guys to learn this rigging process inside of Blender 3D. However, if you don't want to do it, perfectly fine. You can get the model and continue with this course. So you can just skip this video and go on to the next video, in which we're going to be importing the model in Unreal Engine 5, and we're going to be doing the rest of the things there. So yeah, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the rigging process. And we are going to be rigging this inside of Blender. However, you can pretty much use any other software or any other 3D software. However, I'm only going to be covering Blender. But even if you don't know how to use Blender, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. So once you download this model, you can just select all of it, copy it. And I'm just going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder. Call it Racing Game Course. And I can create a new folder again. I'm just going to call this Lambo. And in here, I can just paste this. Now I'm going to go ahead and open Blender. If you don't have Blender installed, you can just go to the internet, search for Blender. Oops, my bad. Yeah, just go to Blender. Why can't I type today? Blender.org, and you can download Blender right here. So once you do that, you can open Blender, click off of the splash screen, select everything, delete it, so that we can add our model now. Then we can go to File, Import, and then select GITF or any other format that you downloaded. You can either do FBX, whichever format you downloaded from Sketchfab, just import that. So I'm just going to select GITF. I'm going to go to Desktop, Racing Game Course, Lambo, and then scene.gltf. That's the file that we're interested in. Just import that. And there you go. That's our car. Perfect. Now we are going to have to do a couple of things with this. One problem that you're going to be noticing right now is if I go to the front view, you can see that the tires are not straight. They're slanted a bit. And that's a choice that they've made, STZ Performance. So we're gonna have to either just rotate these tires or basically just replace them. That's what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be replacing them, and I did find better tires which like suited this car more, so I'm just gonna be using those. But again, you can either rotate them or use different tires. That's totally up to you. So let's go ahead and work on that. And also, we're gonna be rigging this car as well. And make it ready so that we can sort of make it drivable inside of Unreal Engine 5. And you can see that it's broken into a lot of different parts. We're going to have to deal with all of that stuff. So first of all, let's go ahead and add the new tires. So for that, I'm going to be using this add-on called Blender Kit. If you don't have this add-on or you don't know how to get this add-on, you can just go to the internet, search for Blender Kit, go to the first website, blenderkit.com, and just click download Blender Kit. And it's going to give you all the instructions to install it. So just follow these instructions and then you can install Blender Kit. So once you have done that, it should appear right there. Search bar should appear right there. And here you can just search for whatever 3D model that you want. But first of all, I'm going to click this button right there to open some settings. Then go to Blender Kit. And in the search filters, I'm just going to search for, I'm just going to click free first so that we only see free models. And I'm just going to be searching for tire. And you can see that we have a lot of different wheels, a lot of different tire options. And I want to look for something which would suit the BMW. Sorry, what's it called? Lamborghini. So there's a lot of different options. I don't see a Lamborghini one. So I can just choose whichever one I want and just replace the logo, I guess. So it really comes down to what I think. This one looks pretty good. I'm gonna go with that. So just click that and it should automatically download it and add it to your scene. And you can see that it's added right there. Perfect. So then what we can do is we can just select the Porsche tire, right click it and click select objects. Once we do that, then we can essentially just move the whole tire around and just place it wherever we want. So I'm just gonna zoom in on this and you can see that the tire looks pretty good. So what we're going to do now is that we are going to basically go to our side view and go down, something like that, like place it there, scale it up a bit, something like that, scale it up a bit like that, and that should be a good position. And then you can go to your front view, and first of all we're going to rotate it. So R to rotate, Z to rotate it in the Z axis, and then 180 to rotate it 180 degrees in the Z axis. And so now you can see that it is in the correct position. We just need to like move it in like that. But before that, I'm going to be removing this wheel. So I'm just going to be deleting this. So just select the elements, delete them individually one by one. Make sure to not delete anything that is a part of the car. Just delete the wheels, like the parts of the wheels. You got to be really careful with this because you can accidentally delete parts of the car, which you might need. So I think that should be pretty much it. Yep. Let's make sure that like the parts on the other side are also gone. Something like that. And right there. Cool. I think so I think we're done with removing most of the parts. There's just one right there. Remove this as well. And we should be good to go. Now what we can do is we can just place the wheel inside. So just select the wheel again, Porsche tire, right click, select objects, and then press G and X, to move this in like that. And you can see that looks pretty good. I do want it to be a little larger though, because I think it looks a little smaller. Something like that. GZ, move it down as well. Yeah, and I think that looks much more proportional and it looks pretty good. Cool. So is it too out? I think it's fine. Yeah. And then what you can do is you can right click the Porsche tire, select objects again, press Shift D this time to duplicate it. Once you do that, you can press Y to lock it to the Y axis and just place it back like that. And this tire should be a bit bigger, I think, because like the space for the tire is much larger. So I'm just going to fill it up like that. And that looks pretty good. Cool. So once that is done, we can basically select both of them, select objects, both of them like that. And then what we can do is we can, or in fact, let me do it individually because we're going to have to rotate them as well. So select the first one, right click, select hierarchy, to select the whole object. And you can move it to make sure that the whole thing is selected, and then just undo it because we don't actually want to move it. And then press Shift D. And then press Shift D and X to move it right there. Something like that. And then you can press RZ to rotate it 180 degrees. Perfect. And then you can do the same with this other one as well. So select it, Shift D, and X, and place it properly like that, and RZ and 180 to rotate it. And also move it out a little bit, something like that. And even this one, I think we're going to have to move this out as well. Select hierarchy. So after we rotated them, we need to like position them properly once again. And cool. So I think that looks pretty good. I think our tires are in place and they look pretty good. Now let's move on to the next step, which is going to be rigging this car. And that is actually pretty simple. But before that, just be sure to save your Blender file just in case we, lose progress or something like that, just in case Blender crashes. So just press Control S, save it, and then you can just select whatever you want, like wherever you want to save it. I'm just going to save it right there. And okay, so our car is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and start rigging it. So for that, we're going to be using a plugin. It's called UE4 Vehicle Rigging Add-on for Blender. I know it's a mouthful. Unreal Engine 4 Vehicle Rigging Add-on for Blender. I know it says Unreal Engine 4, but it does work on Unreal Engine 5 just as well. And the website is continuebreak.com. So just go to this website. And here, if I just cross it out, you can basically just click direct link right there to download the add-on. And the credits for this add-on are, I think, with continuebreak.com. I'm not sure if it says any other information, but yeah, obviously it's very important to like give credit to the people whose assets you're using or whose plugins or add-ons you're using. So that's very important. But apart from that, you can just download this and you don't need to unzip it. You don't even need to open it. All you need to do is go to Blender and go to Edit, Preferences. And if you install the Blender Kit add-on, the process is basically the same. Go to Add-ons, click this button right there, Install from Disk. Then you can browse over to wherever you had that downloaded. I'm just going to search for UE4 right there. Perfect. Just select it and click Install from Disk. Once you do that, I'm not going to do that because I've already installed it. But once you do that, it should appear. My bad. Yeah, it should appear right there. Unreal Engine 4 Vehicle Rigger. Make sure that this is checked. If it's not, it's going to be disabled. But yeah, make sure that is checked and then you can cross it out. Once you do that, you're going to basically see this thing right here. If you don't have this menu open, you can just click this button right there, the arrow button right there. Click that and it should open up this UE4 vehicle. Now you're going to have to give it a couple of things. You're going to have to give it the vehicle base, which is going to be the whole vehicle, and all the tires as individual objects. And then you can basically rig it. So that's pretty simple. Let's go ahead and first compile all these objects into one single, like the whole body into one single object and each of the tires into one single object. And then we can start rigging. So let's begin with the tires first. What I'm going to do for that is I'm just going to select the tire, and you can see that it is already one object, and that's pretty good. So we're going to basically just take this. You can see that if I move it, nothing is left back except for the caliper, right? And the caliper is not going to be moving. So that's pretty good. And all we need to do is basically just unparent this because this is parented to this empty, which is inside this collection. So we don't want that whole hierarchy of things. We just want this to be a simple object without any parents. So I'm just going to press Alt P on my keyboard. Alt P is basically clear parent, and I'm just going to do clear parent, clear and keep transform. So if I do that, you can see that now it is not parented inside anything. So that's pretty good. And now we can essentially just have it as a separate object, right? So I'm going to be renaming this though. So double click to rename, and you can see that this is the front left tire. So I'm just going to call it FL or wheel underscore FL. Cool. So that's that. And then we can select the one at the back that's inside this collection. So I'm just going to be opening this. And again, we can press Alt P, clear and keep transform, and rename this wheel underscore rear left. And then this one would be front right. So I'm just going to Alt P, clear transform,
sorry, clear parent and keep transform. And then you can rename this wheel underscore front right, FR. And finally, it's this one. Finally, this one. So just click that, and then you can rename this wheel underscore rear right. Cool. So now I have all the wheels, but we also have the calipers, which are essentially parented. So I'm just gonna unparent all of those as well. Just select all of them, press Alt P, and then clear parent like that. That's pretty good. And then we can just take this empty, all these empties in fact, and just delete them. Doesn't really matter. Delete them like that, and nothing should really change in our scene. Cool. Now what we can do is we can basically press A to select everything, and now you can see that everything in our scene is selected. And now if we just hold shift on our keyboard, and if we double click all of the tires, what's going to happen is that everything is going to stay selected except for the tires. So we're essentially just deselecting the tires, and like that. So now if I just select the whole thing, like with everything selected, I can just press G to move it. And now you'll see that everything is basically selected except for the tires. So that's pretty good. So with all that selected, again, we can just press any of the objects. It doesn't matter which one you do. It should just turn yellow instead of orange. And then you can press Control J. Once you do that, it is basically just going to join it into one object. So that is perfect. It's all one object now. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind, one problem that does occur sometimes is that some of the modifiers are not going to be applied. And they're going to be applied when you join it. All the modifiers will be applied, but then sometimes they will be applied in the wrong order. So to avoid that, all you can do is basically just undo this. I'm just going to undo it just so that I can show you guys again. So yeah, with everything selected, what you can do is we can basically just press Control A to apply, and then you can just click visual geometry to mesh. If you click that, all the modifiers are going to be applied. I'm not going to do that because I don't really need to. In fact, actually, even if I do, it shouldn't really change much. But yeah, you can see that if you do that, it's just going to convert everything to geometry, and it's just going to make sure that you don't get any issues. Then you can press Control J, and now it should be converted into a good mesh. So once you have this, you can just start with the rigging process. Just make sure that your normals are not incorrect. So you just click this arrow right there, and then you can click face orientation, and make sure all of the objects, none of the objects are green, or at least none of the objects on the outside part are green. So this part right here, you can see that it's the inside, so we can't really do anything. We don't need to do anything basically, so that's fine. But this part, these mirrors right there, we do need to fix them because they are red. So I don't know which part in your car is going to be red, but whatever it is, just try to make sure. Just follow the process that I'm showing to basically fix those areas. So with the Lamborghini body selected, you can press tab to go into edit mode, and it's going to open up it's going to show a whole bunch of geometry right there. What we are interested in is go up to face mode right there, face select mode, then go down, select any of the faces, press Control and plus on your keyboard a couple of times until all this geometry is selected. Make sure to press plus on your number pad. If you don't have a number pad, you can go to edit, preferences, and then I think in input, yeah, you can just click emulate number pad, and basically then you can just click plus on your number row as well on your keyboard. So once you have all these selected, these faces selected, what you can do is you can go to mesh, normals, and then just say flip. So then if you tab out of edit mode, you can see that that is going to be fixed. We're going to have to do the exact same thing on the other side as well. So just tab, select the face, keep pressing plus a couple of times, and then mesh, normals, and then flip. Perfect. So that is looking pretty good. I think the backside is fine. This part is not going to be visible. And yeah, we should be good to go. So now we can start with the rigging process. So for the rigging process, it's important that your car is facing towards the positive x-axis. And how do you know which side is positive x-axis? You can look at this thing right here. I'm not sure what it's called, but you can see that the positive x is facing towards the left side of the screen. So just make sure that your car is facing that way. So let's go ahead and do that. So just press A to select everything, R to rotate, and Z to rotate everything towards the x-axis. And you can see on the top left hand corner, it shows us the rotation. And you can see that if I rotate it towards that side, it's approaching -90. So I'm just going to type in -90 to make sure that I rotate it exactly that. And then finally, to sort of lock in this position, what we can do is we can press Control A to apply, and just apply rotation and scale. We don't need to apply location. So just all of them, individually select all of them and apply rotation and scale. Control A, rotation and scale. And finally, Control A, rotation and scale. And in order to verify that it is actually being applied, you can just press this button right there, this movement. And you can see that the individual axes of that object should also be aligned with basically this axis right here. So you can see Z is pointing upwards, X is pointing left side, X is pointing left side as well, and Y towards the screen and towards the screen as well. So make sure that that is same for all of them. Cool. Only thing I want to do next is I want to just unparent all of this, because you can see we still have some parents, and I know it's getting a bit confusing, but all we need to do is press A, Alt P, and clear parent and keep transform. Perfect. Everything is done. We don't need to do anything else. All you need to do is just select all the empties and delete them, because we don't really need them anymore. This is our object. Double click it. I'm going to call it body. So all these empties, you can just delete them. It doesn't matter. And then all these as well, delete them. And you should be good to go. So all you need basically in your whole scene is going to be your 4 wheels and your body. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. We can even delete these collections. We literally don't need any of this stuff. Okay. So once you have this, finally what we can do is we can just start adding our objects into this. So body goes into vehicle base, front right goes into front right, rear right goes into rear right, front left to front left, and wheel right left to right left. I hope I did everything correctly. Yep, I did. So now what we need to do is we need to set unit scale. So once you set unit scale, you're going to see that our car is going to just become way smaller because it converted the units of Blender into Unreal Engine. So I think Unreal Engine uses centimeters and Blender uses meters. I think those are the units that both these softwares use. So it just converts them into the other one. So what we can do to fix that is we can basically just go ahead and scale it up. Actually select everything, press A, and then scale it up. And exactly how much you're going to scale it up, what you can do is you can go to your side view, and then you can basically just open the measure tool and just measure from top to bottom. It should be about 1.6 meters. That's what I know for the Lamborghini. I think, I'm not really sure. Let me go ahead and search for Lamborghini Huracan height. So let's see in meters. So about 1.16, not 1.6. So just bring it down, something like 1.16. Doesn't need to be exactly accurate, but yeah, I want to try to get it as accurate as I can. And then I can just scale it up and move it up like that. And let me just place it on the ground as well. Something like that should be good. I think, and I can just go ahead and also press Control A and just apply the rotation and scale. Once you do that, now we are basically finally ready to rig. Just click rig vehicle and it should automatically do it. And you can see our vehicle has been successfully rigged. That's all we need to do. I know this was a little confusing, but just trust me that this is probably the most confusing part of this whole tutorial. Everything onwards, everything beyond this point is going to be pretty straightforward. And yeah, I think this course is actually pretty easy for beginners, I would say. Except for this part, I think everything else is going to be relatively straightforward. But once your vehicle is rigged, what you can do is you can just go to File, Export, and then select FBX. And then you can just save it where you want it to. I think that should be fine. The only thing that we need to do is we need to change the forward axis to the X forward axis and the up axis to the Z up axis. That's all we need to do because those are the axes that our car is actually facing, right? Because the forward is the X forward and the up is Z up. So that should be good. And yeah, apart from that, I think everything else is fine. We can just go ahead and export it, click export. And now we can go ahead and open our Unreal Engine project and import this car. So our Unreal Engine project has been downloaded. You can see that city sample right there is downloaded. Just cross it out. And then we can go to our Epic Games launcher. And finally, we can go ahead and launch Unreal Engine so that we can open our project. All right, so once you open Unreal Engine 5, it should come up right there, your project that you just created. You can just go ahead and double click it to open it. And the first time you open a project, it is going to take you a bit to load all the textures and everything. So just give it a second and I will see you guys when it's opened. All right, so our project just opened, and as you can see here, it tells us that there are basically two main levels in this that we can use, two city levels. There's other levels as well, but yeah, there's a big city level and then there's a small city level. So if your computer is extremely strong and you want like a really big world and you want to create like a really big race, then you can use big city. However, I would definitely not recommend that. I think small city level is large enough and it's already pretty resource intensive, so I'm not even sure how intensive big city would be, but I'm just going to be using small city. So what we can do is we can just search for small city LVL in our content folder, and you're going to see this small city level right there. That's a level file, and you can just open it, double click it, and it's going to start to open. Now I can already hear my laptop fan spinning up, but yeah, you can see that it just loaded perfect. Now we can't really see anything. It's basically just buildings in the distance, and we can just see the ocean here. So the reason for that is because the world is actually not loaded up into our computer. So for that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to this window right there called World Partition. If you don't see this level, by the way, you can go to Window and then go to World Partition and make sure World Partition Editor is checked. Once you do that, once you enable that, it should come up right there. And then here what we can do is we can basically just select the region that we want to load. So if you load this entire thing, if you just select this whole thing and right click and say load region from selection, it's going to be extremely resource intensive. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to be loading up a smaller region for now, and then we can later on decide what to do and sort of how to basically take our level. So I think I'm just going to load up this much right there, because my race is going to start from here, start from this point and go on here and then get on this bridge and then come back, and then it's going to end probably right there. So I think that should be enough for me. And so once we have selected the region, we can right click it and say load region from selection. So once you do that, it is going to take a minute, but once that is done, it should, your level assets should be visible. And I can see that our city is visible, and it looks pretty good. Cool. So our level is ready, but right now what I'm going to do is I'm actually not going to be adding my car and everything into this level, because if I do that, it's going to get pretty resource intensive. So what I'm going to do is generally a better approach is to just create a new level, just like a test level or just a development level, and sort of add your car in that, make your car drivable in that, work on all the physics and everything, add the enemy AIs, like the opponents and everything. And once all of that coding or all of that programming is done, then you can take all those assets, all those blueprints, and just bring them into your main level and sort of finish the game. So that's a faster way of development. You don't have to like basically load up this level while you are developing the game. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and create a new level for that. For that, I'm just going to go to File, New Level, and then the level we're going to be selecting is going to be a basic level. Just click Create. And now you can see that we have this level. Perfect. So you can press Control S to save it. I'm going to call it Test Map. Cool. And just save it in your content folder. And that should be good. Now we can go ahead and import our car and start to make it drivable. So in order to do that, I'm going to right click my content folder first. And I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Lamborghini. Oops. Lamborghini. I think I misspelled it. Perfect. So once we have that folder, I'm going to right click it again, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Mesh, because this is the folder where I'm going to be storing my mesh. And then outside that folder, I can have my blueprints and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, once we are in that folder, we can go to our file explorer, go to our course folder, and then just drag in your hardcon.fpx file like that. And just let it do its thing. I'm going to cross this out as well. Cross it out. And I think everything being default is fine. Just click import. So once you import your car, you're going to see that we have three assets mainly. We have a skeletal mesh, a physics asset, and a skeleton. Everything else is just going to be either a material or a texture. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to right click anywhere, new folder. I'm just going to call this materials. And then we can essentially select all of these. Oops, my bad. Or we can just press Control A, select all of these, and then press Control and deselect our, obviously this materials folder and also the three main assets that we need. Everything else we can just drag inside this materials folder. Move here, Perfect. So this is just for organization sake. You can't, you don't really need to do this if you don't want to. Also make sure to save everything as well. So once that is done, what we can do is we can basically just go ahead and start to work on essentially making this vehicle drivable. So for the vehicle, we're going to be using this plugin called Chaos Vehicles plugin. Now in this project, in this specific project, the city project that we're using, it is already enabled, and we do have cars that already use that plugin, so we don't really need to enable it. However, if you're using some other project, what you can do is you can just go to settings right there, go to plugins, and then you can search for Chaos. It does come installed by default. However, you just need to go in and enable it. So I think it's called Chaos Vehicles plugin right there. Make sure that this is checked. I think if you check it for the first time, it is going to ask you to restart Unreal Engine. So just go ahead and do that. But once you're done with that, what we can do is we can get started. So I'm going to go to my Lamborghini folder and my mesh folder actually. And right now we're just going to open the physics asset, because the plugin, the Chaos plugin that we're going to be using is essentially a physics based plugin. So we need to have an accurate physics asset of our car for it to work. So let's go ahead and start with that. Let's open the physics asset and make sure that it is accurate. And you can see that in this case, it really isn't accurate. You can see that the physics asset of the body is this capsule for some reason, and all of these tires are also capsules. So that is not correct at all. So what we can do is we can just select all of these, basically just select all of them on the left side, and you can just delete them. So once all of that is deleted, what we can do is we can go ahead and create our own physics body. So for that, I'm going to go to settings right there and just make sure that show all bones is enabled. If you enable that, it's going to show you all the bones that we have in our car. So what we can do is we can select all of our, all of our wheels. So front left, front right, rear left, and rear right. Select all of your bones. And then you can go to this tool section right there in the bottom right hand side, and you can see that we have a couple of options here which we can use to generate our own bodies. So the primitive type, I'm just going to set this to a sphere because that resembles closely the shape of our tires, and the minimum bone size is 20 is fine. Everything else default is perfectly fine. Just click add bodies, and if you do that, now you're going to see that we have pretty accurate physics bodies for our wheels. Cool. And I know they're not like accurate from this angle, like they are obviously extended out, but that's fine. Shouldn't make a difference. All we care about is that they resemble the shape of the wheels. And after that, we can select the root bone right there, which is essentially our body of the car, the main body. And with this, the primitive type, I'm just going to set it to single convex hull. You can also set this to a box, but that's going to give you like a lesser accurate collision. But we want a more accurate collision, so I'm just going to say single convex hull. And click add bodies, and you can see that it is a relatively accurate collision. I know it's not perfect, but it should be good enough for our purposes. So once this is done, we can just click save on the top left hand side and cross it out. So now our physics body is set up. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and start working on creating a blueprint, which is essentially going to be our main car character. So I'm going to go back to my Lamborghini folder, and I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to say create a blueprint class. There's going to be our blueprint character. And if I just click all classes right there, I'm going to be looking for a very specific blueprint class, and that is going to be wheeled vehicle pawn. So this is only going to appear if you have that Chaos Vehicle plugin installed. Otherwise, I don't think you're going to see this here. But if you have it installed, you should probably see it there. Wheeled vehicle pawn, that is the blueprint class that we're going to be using. Click that and click select. And you can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call this Lamborghini, or actually, I'm going to say BP for blueprint underscore Lamborghini. That should be fine. So that's going to be essentially our main player character, which is going to be the car. So we can open this, and you're going to see that we have a couple of things there. We have a vehicle movement component, and we have a mesh. So let's go to mesh first, and let's go to the skeletal mesh asset. This is going to be the actual mesh of our car. So we can just select our car here. So just click none, and then you can just search for what was it called? What was the mesh called? It was called Hurricane, right? Oh, I think I spelled it wrong. It's Horan for some reason, not Hurricane. So I don't think it should matter, but yeah, we can just select it, and perfect. You can see our car is present right there. So you can see now our mesh is right there. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and add a camera to this, which is going to be our chase camera, which the player is going to be using to actually play the game. So let's go ahead and click add right there, and we can add a spring arm. So what a spring arm is that it basically is a way you can attach your camera to a certain thing. So the way it works is that the mesh is the parent of the spring arm. So the spring arm is essentially attached to the mesh. And then the spring arm is going to have another child that is going to be the camera. So we can just click the spring arm and make sure that is selected, and then go to add and add a camera. So if we do it like this, basically what's going to happen is that the camera is attached to the spring arm and the spring arm is attached to the mesh, so that wherever our camera goes, or wherever our mesh goes or our car goes, the camera is going to go with it. And the spring arm also gives you some controls to essentially position the camera properly. So we can just select the spring arm, increase the camera length, and that's going to decide how far our camera is. So that's pretty good. And also if you rotate the spring arm, basically what's going to happen is that you can rotate the position of the camera properly as well. So I think something like that should be good for now. We are going to change this later on. Target arm length, I'm just going to set this to 500 just to satisfy my OCD. And I think that should be good for now. Just go ahead and compile this, and we can move on to setting up the wheels now. So for the wheels, we're going to go inside the vehicle movement component. Inside here, you can see that we have this thing called wheel setup. And here we're going to be adding all of our wheels, because we need to tell this blueprint class what exactly are the wheel bones, so that it can sort of rotate those and not rotate the rest of the body, right? If that makes sense. So we can just go to wheel setups right there, and we're going to add 4 elements. Now this is obviously dependent on how many wheels you have. We have 4 wheels. That's why we're going to add 4 elements. If you have a car which has more than 4 wheels, you can definitely add more. But we're going to open all of these. Once you open all of these, you can see that we have this thing called bone name in all of them. And that's essentially going to be the name of the bone of individual wheels. So what we're going to do in order to access our bone names, or in order to just find out what the bone names are, we can just go to our skeleton, open it. And here you're going to see that we have all the bone names right here. So FL, RR, RL, and RR. So those are the bone names. And root is obviously the bone name of our main body. So go back, and we can just start typing in these names. So I'm just going to start with FL, FR, and then rear left, and then rear right. All right, so that should be good. And next up, we're going to be adding a wheel class to this. And wheel class is basically a blueprint class which allows you to sort of add different attributes, or different, just attributes to wheels. So you can change the friction, you can change the drag coefficient, and all those things. And it allows you to do that from a class. So we're going to be creating classes for that. So let's go back to our Lamborghini folder. We can right click anywhere, and we can just go to blueprint class once again. This time we're going to be searching for chaos vehicle wheel. I think I spelled wheel wrong. Yeah, chaos vehicle wheel right there. If you select this, I'm just going to call this front wheel, because we're going to be adding another one for the rear wheels as well, because there is a major difference between the front and rear wheels. So for now, let's go ahead and open this. And if I open that, you can see that we have a couple of different settings there. So what we are interested in changing is affected by handbrake, set that to be on. Affected by engine, set that to be on as well. And if you go down to affected by steering, this is only going to be on for the front wheel. So that's going to be the difference. The front wheels are going to rotate, but the back wheels are not going to rotate. And the max steer angle, I think if we set it to something like 45, it should be good. This is essentially just how much your wheels are going to rotate. So this is going to depend on the type of car that you have, but I think 40, 45 should be a good number for a Lamborghini Huracan. I'm really sorry if I get any of this information wrong about cars, because honestly, I don't really know that much about cars. I'm pretty sure a lot of you would know way more about cars. So a lot of your car knowledge does come really handy when you're making games like these, because a lot of the physics, a lot of the the physical attributes of the cars are really sort of accurate based on the real attributes of the car. So the more you know, the better it's going to be. Be sure to use all the car knowledge that you have. You can also do research as well and ask ChatGPT or any of those tools. So what we're going to do after this is we're going to basically duplicate this, duplicate it, and I'm going to call this one. If I go back, I'm going to call this one rear wheel, because it's going to be basically the same except for one main difference, which is going to be affected by steering is going to be off. So that's the difference. And the wheel radius, we're going to be changing that in just a bit. We're going to be adjusting that if we need to in just a bit, but for now we should be good. So just cross all of this out, and then we can go back to our vehicle movement component. And here, the wheel class for the first 2 wheels, we're going to be selecting the front wheel right there. That's the class that we just created. And then for this as well, first 2 front wheel, and then the last 2 are going to be rear wheel. Cool. Perfect. So that should be good. Let's go ahead and compile that. Actually, one thing that I forgot to do in the wheels was to just go to the front wheel first and make sure that the axle type is set to front in the front wheel, and then go to the rear wheel. In the rear wheel, it should be set to rear. And that's just something I forgot to do before. Now let's go ahead and actually try to make this car actually drive on the road. So let's go ahead and do that. So for that, first of all, I'm going to add a player start, because you can see we don't have a player start here in the level. Add that right there. That should be good enough. Actually move it down quite a bit. And then we can add a game mode, which we're going to be using to set this character, this blueprint, as our default character. So let's go ahead and do that. So for that, I'm just going to, actually, we can just stay in the Lamborghini folder and we can right click, create blueprint class. And this time we're going to say game mode base. Set that. And I'm just going to call this something like car game. And that's going to be the game mode that we're going to be using for this game. So all of our logic, all of our sort of word logic for the game is going to be going in this blueprint class. Just open that, and you can see that if I go to the right side, you can see this thing called the default pawn class. I'm just going to select that, and I'm just going to say BP Lamborghini. Default pawn class will be the BP Lamborghini, because that's our default character. Then we're going to go to world settings to set this as the default game mode. Usually world setting is somewhere here, but it's not. So we're going to go up to window and then just enable world settings right there. Perfect. And in here, what we can do is we can go to game mode override, and instead of none, we're just going to set this to car game. Perfect. And just make sure to go to selected game mode and make sure that the default pawn class is set to the one that we set it to. So that should be good. Now we won't be able to actually move the car because we haven't really set up any of our controls yet. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. And then after that, we can sort of just play the game and see how it works. So let's open the blueprint Lamborghini first. And let's first work on rotating the camera around the, around the car and orbiting the camera basically. So let's go ahead and add those controls first. So for that, what we're going to be doing is that we're just going to be rotating our spring arm, right? And that's also the reason why we used a spring arm. That's because you can just essentially just rotate it, and our camera is going to be rotating around the car, right? So that's the reason why we use the spring arm. So what we can do is we can go to our event graph, and we can drag in our spring arm, and we can say add relative rotation. And we're going to add 2 of these nodes, and I'll explain in just a second. So add relative rotation to these nodes. Perfect. And the reason why we added 2 of them is because one of them is going to be for the x-axis. So when we move our mouse on the x-axis, that should be affected, and the other one is going to be on the y-axis, right? So that's why we added 2 of these. So I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to say mouse X, and make sure to go to mouse events and not mouse values, and just drag in mouse X right there. So that's essentially going to be triggered when we move our mouse in the x-axis, and we can right click here and say mouse Y as well, and make sure to go to mouse events and not mouse values. And again, this is going to be triggered when you move your mouse in the y-axis like that. So what that's going to do is that it's going to basically change the rotation or add relative rotation to the spring arm. And so this is the axis value. And if you think logically, if you move your, if let's say you are viewing the camera from this perspective, right? And you want to look around the car, right? How would you want to move your spring arm? You would want to move it, if you move your mouse in the x-axis, you would want to rotate the spring arm in the z-axis, right? Because you want to move it around it. So that's the z-axis essentially. So let me undo that. Yeah, so if you move your mouse in the x-axis, we want the spring arm to rotate in the z-axis. I hope that makes sense. So we can just right-click this, delta rotation, and we can say split struct pin, and that's going to give us access to individual x, y, and z rotation values that we can add. And so I'm just going to take this axis value and I'm going to plug it into the z value. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a bit confusing, even if you don't understand it and you're a beginner, that's perfectly fine. But for the intermediate or advanced users out there, what we're doing is that we're taking the x value, the x rotation value, and just rotating our spring arm by that value, however, in the z-axis, if that makes sense. And then we can right click this as well, split struct pin. And then if you think about it, if you want to say move your mouse in the y-axis, you want to rotate it in what axis? In the y-axis, right? So let's go ahead and plug this into the y-axis. Perfect. So those are our controls. Just go ahead and compile it, cross it out. And now what we can do is we can try to play the game and see if it works. So you can see our car is hovering for some reason. However, we are able to orbit around it. just as we would expect it to. Perfect. So now let's figure out why exactly it's hovering, and let's figure out that, and let's fix the issue as well. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my spring arm, and I'm just going to turn off the do collision test. I'm just going to turn that off. So just do that. That's going to prevent some problems. And now the main reason why our car is not actually falling to the ground, that is because we don't have physics enabled. So chaos, as I mentioned before as well, is a physics plugin. So we need to essentially enable physics on our mesh for it to work. So just go to your mesh, go to details panel, search for physics, and just make sure simulate physics is checked. If that is checked, it should just work. And you can see that it works. Perfect. And you can even see that the suspension of the car also works, and our wheels are, I think they're pretty accurate. I think they are flushed in a little bit with the ground, so we're going to fix that in just a bit. But you can see that we can orbit around our car and it falls down to the ground as well. So that's perfectly fine. Now let's go ahead and work on the next step, which is going to be making the car move. So for that, let's go back to our BP Lamborghini, and what we can do is we can actually comment this out. Just place it here, and I'm just gonna press C, or actually I'm just gonna select all of this and press C on my keyboard to comment it out. And I'm just gonna say camera rotation. It's good to just comment out all of your code. It just makes it easier for you to sort of come back to it later on and adjust it. And for now, what we're going to do is that we're actually going to be dragging in our vehicle movement component in our event graph like that. And from this, we're going to be dragging out a couple of things. So we're going to say set throttle input. So that's going to be our throttle input. That's going to be how we add speed to our car. And after that, we're going to say set brake. It's my bad. Can't even type. Set brake input. That's going to be our braking. And after that, we're going to say set steering input. And lastly, we're going to say set handbrake input. All right, cool. So now we have all the controls that we want to all the things that we want to do with our car. Now let's go ahead and set up controls for it. Now, adding controls on Unreal Engine 5 is a little interesting because if you've seen any of my older tutorials, you would know that we used to use input actions, but now the method has changed. They've introduced enhanced input actions, which are essentially a different way of doing things. And I would say they're a little more complicated. However, it's just the new approach, so we have to learn it. So yeah, for that, now in this project, in the city sample project, it's actually much easier for us. All the controls are already set up. So all you need to do is basically just look for the controls and add them. However, if you're using another project, I'll show you guys how to set up controls as well, right? So you would have, I think in any project that you're in, you'll probably have an input folder. You just need to go to that folder, and you can see that in this one, we have some different categories. I don't think you would have categories depending on the project. But yeah, you would probably just have one sort of folder in which you would have all your controls. But for us, we're going to go into the vehicle folder because that's all we're doing right now. So you would probably see something like this. So you would see all the controls. So you can see we have a brake control input action, we have a handbrake input action, steering input action, and a throttle input action. And then we would have an input mapping context. Now this is important because this is essentially where you would set up all your controls. So these are individual controls, and this is where you would set up or sort of map all those controls to different keys. So if you just open this, you're going to see that if I go to mappings, we have all of our controls here, the ones that we see right there. Cool. All of them are there. And we also have the input action sort of mappings, the key mappings essentially. So throttle would be W key, and everything would have their own mappings, right? So for this, all we need to do is we just need to apply these controls. However, if you don't have these specific controls, I'll tell you how to add these input action controls as well. So all you need to do is you need to right click right there, input, and then you can just go to input action. Once you do that, you can call it whatever you want. So I'm just going to call it IA_test because I'm just going to show you guys how this works. I'm not actually going to be using this, but you can call it IA_throttle, steering, handbrake, whatever you're making, and then open it. And here you can see we have a bunch of different settings. We're not going to be touching any of these. We're not really going to be needing this. All we need to do is once we have this ready, what we can do is we can go to our input mapping context, and we can just bind this control to some key. So just go to mappings, click plus on the mappings, and then you can basically just add your input action. So IA_test, just add that right there. And then you can essentially just click this keyboard button, and whatever key you press next is going to be bound to that. So for example, if I do Q, you can see that the Q key is bound to that. Or you can just look up your settings as well and it works like that. Cool. So I'm just going to delete that. I just wanted to show you guys how to sort of add these input actions. But ideally, if you're using this project, you wouldn't want to have you wouldn't have to do any of this stuff. All of this was just for people who are not using this project. So all you need to do, if you have your input action set up, is you just need to like bring it, drag off of this, and just search for throttle. My bad. And you can see in input, we have enhanced action events, and we have the IA underscore VH underscore throttle. That's exactly what we need. Cool. So just add that. However, there's one more thing that we need to do. We need to also make sure that this blueprint actually takes in all of these input actions. So the thing is that by default, not all of your actions are going to be inherited by this blueprint. So there's some code that you need to add. You don't really need to understand what it does. You just need to add that code to make sure that the blueprint actually takes in the correct input mapping context. If that doesn't make any sense to you, that's perfectly fine. I understand this is confusing. Unreal Engine has Epic Games has made this process weird. At least I personally don't like this method. I miss the old input action method, but I guess we're just gonna have to stick with the new one. So all you need to do for this to work is just go to your event begin play and add this code right there. So I have a screenshot, and you can see that it's, if I just zoom in, we have this code. It says cast to player controller, get player controller, and then just add all of this code, and that's gonna make it work. So I'm just gonna add this in front of you guys so that you guys can have a better idea. So just go to your event begin play inside of your car blueprint, drag off of it, and say cast to player controller. Okay. And in your object, it's going to be get controller. Oops, my bad. Controller. Cool. Place it somewhere there. I'm going to move all this up a little bit. Something like that. And then as player controller, you can get your enhanced input local player subsystem. I know that's a mouthful, but enhanced input local player subsystem. I hate that word. It's such a long. Okay, so drag off of this then, and then say is valid. Add this node, connect the execution pin to this, and then after this, you can just simply say add mapping context. Add, or actually you should drag off of this because then it wouldn't be in its context. Add mapping context. Cool. And here there's one important thing. You need to go to the mapping context, and the mapping context that you need to select is going to be all the way at the end. IM underscore VH underscore input mapping. VH stands for vehicle. So just select the mapping context that you have all your mappings in. We're going to be using the vehicle one. So just select that, and everything should be good. So now once we have all of this done, we can just compile it, and let's just try the throttle one first to see if it works, and also plug in the action value into the throttle. So once you're done with that, there's one last thing that you need to make sure to do for your car to be able to move. You just need to go to your vehicle movement component, go to mechanical setup in the details panel, and then go to engine setup. And we need to set up your torque curve in order for your car to basically run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click here and open my torque curve. And so basically, if I just unzoom, you can see that we have some values here and some time values here. And you can see our max torque is 300 for now. Now, this is going to depend on what car you have. I think Lamborghini would probably have around 400, 500, depending on what model you have. But I think for us, maybe 400 should be a good value. So I'm just going to set the max torque to 400. And you can open this again. And so basically, I'm just going to zoom out so that I can sort of create my torque curve up till 400. So you can see a 400 should be somewhere here, and you can press shift and left click to basically create a value, and then you can just create like a curve like this, something like that. Now this is going to depend on what car you have. I think a Lamborghini would probably have something like this. Different cars have different torque curves, and so I think I'm just going to set it something like that. And I'm not sure how accurate that is because I honestly don't really know if it's, I think this something like this should be good, at least for the purposes of this game. However, I'm not really sure if an actual Lamborghini would have something this similar, but what you can do is you can just Google it. Lamborghini Huracan. torque curve. Cool. So just search that, go to images, and you can see that it is, yeah, it just increases slightly, and it's something like that. So you can also find different sorts of torque curves for different cars. And so I'm just gonna be setting it to something like that. I think it was something more similar to this. I think something like that should be good. And once you have your torque curve ready, now the car should basically run. Now let's go ahead and press play and see if it actually works. And then if it does, then we can add the rest of the controls as well. So you can see the game loaded, and if I press W, you can see that it works and our car moves ahead. I know our wheels are not rotating. We're going to fix that in just a bit, but at least the car moves forward. Now let's go ahead and add all the other controls first, and then we can focus on making the wheels rotate. It's pretty simple, by the way. Wheels are not difficult. And then after that, so we can say brake, and again, make sure that you add enhanced action events and not enhanced action values. That's very important. So just go to brake, go triggered, and then plug both of these in, and then steering, look for steering, enhanced action event, steering. Cool. Plug this in, action value goes in there, and then finally handbrake. Add this and just plug it in to the action value. Cool. I think that should be pretty much it. Let me move this down a little bit just to make it more organized. And let's actually go ahead and see if it works. If all of our controls work, I hope they do. And you can see that we are moving, we are able to move forward, we're able to turn, and we're also able to brake and everything. But once we brake, after we brake, it's not going to let us move again. So that's an interesting thing. So I want you to think about this logically. Once our car starts to move, and once it stops, we're not able to start it up or move it again. So that's an interesting thing. So all you need to do to fix that is just open this, just click this drop down menu right there, and make sure to connect the completed node, the completed execution pin into this as well. Now what that's going to do is that it's going to make sure that even after our action is completed, even after that, we're able to do it again. I hope that makes sense. I know I know it might be a little confusing for beginners, but that's fine. Hopefully you guys will understand it eventually. But just note for now that you need to connect the completed of all of these nodes into the input as well. Cool. I think with this as well, make sure to connect completed. And let's see, hopefully that fixes the issue. Make sure to save all, by the way. And now if I move ahead, you can see that we're able to move our car. And if we stop, we are able to start it up again. Perfect. Okay, that's super cool. We're also able to sort of drift, and everything is pretty cool. Perfect. So our controls are working. Now let's go ahead and make our tires rotate. So the tires rotating part is also pretty simple. All you need to do is you need to go to your Lamborghini folder. Let's go to our mesh folder, and you're going to go to your skeleton, and you're going to right click your skeleton and go to create, and we're going to be creating an animation blueprint. So the way this works is that basically all the animations of this car, or essentially the wheel animations, are already in this plugin. We just need to sort of find them and enable them. That's all we need to do. And there's a there are a couple of steps to that, but it's going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. So I think I'm just going to leave the default name. That's fine. Open this. And what you're going to do is that you're going to go to your class settings, and you need to make sure that the parent class, so just go to your class settings first, go to your parent class, make sure that this is set to the vehicle animation instance. Make sure that it's set to this, because this has all the animations from the chaos vehicles pack. So in this output pose, we're just going to be plugging in two things. The first thing is going to be if I right click here, and if I say wheel controller, this thing is going to pop up wheel controller for wheeled vehicle. I know it's a mouthful, but yeah, just get that, and then just plug this into the result, and it's going to add this node automatically. That's perfectly fine. And then after this, we're going to be adding one last node. That's going to be mesh space reference pose. Okay, so just add these nodes. So once we're done with this, we just need to do one more thing, and that is going to be telling the blueprint, our main car blueprint, to use this animation blueprint. So just go back to your Lamborghini folder, go to your blueprint class, open this, go to your vehicle movement component, and we're going to be looking for animation. Actually, it's probably in the mesh. Actually, my bad, not the vehicle movement component. Go to your mesh, go to search for animation, and you're gonna see this anim class. Just go to this and basically just select your the animation blueprint that you just created. So just select this, and now it should work. So compile this, and let's go ahead and test it out and see if we have the rotations. You can see that our wheels are finally rotating and they look pretty good. Our calipers are not rotating, but the wheels are, which looks pretty realistic. And you can see they even rotate in the z-axis as well as we turn. So that's pretty good. So I feel like our car is pretty much ready to go. I think it's looking pretty decent. So I think the next thing that we should do is work on the materials of this car and just make it look very good. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this course up to this point. I hope you guys are enjoying a lot. I hope you guys are learning as well. Now the course beyond this point is actually on Udemy. It is unfortunately paid. However, the value that you're getting, especially considering all the sales that have been going on Udemy right now, the value you're getting is absolutely amazing. So just click on the link in the description and you can go to Udemy and get that course. I think investing a small amount like $10-20 on something that is going to help you build a career in something that you genuinely love doing, I think that's definitely worth it. And I think you should invest some money in your education as well. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see more courses like this. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.